were the most feared Mafia twins in Seoul, Kang Jae-won and Kang Tae-min. Together they were unstoppable, ruthless, untouchable. But 5 years ago, a car bomb meant to kill them left them with something worse than scars. It left them infertile, unable to continue the bloodline that had ruled Seoul's underworld for 3 generations. I grew up hearing whispers about them, the twins who shared everything, the brothers who killed without hesitation, the men who made grown criminals weep with fear. I never thought I'd meet them, never thought their world would crash into mine. But my father had other plans. 3 million won in gambling debts, money he didn't have, money owed to people who don't forgive. And when the collectors came, when the threats turned to bruises, he made a choice. He sold me. I am Aisha Rashid, 23 years old, Tanzanian, a journalism student with dreams that didn't include being bartered like livestock. But here I am, sitting across from 2 identical men in expensive suits, signing a contract that makes me wife to both of them. They say they need an heir. They say the doctors might have been wrong about their infertility. They say I'm strong enough to survive their world. What they don't say is that they want me, both of them, with an intensity that should terrify me. And the terrifying part? I don't want to choose between them. The aggressive fire of Jae-won, the calculating precision of Tae-min. Why have one when I can claim them both? This is my story. The story of how I went from victim to queen. From purchased property to the most powerful woman in Seoul's underworld. The story of 3 people who became one unbreakable force. Welcome to K Fairy Tale Stories, besties. I always strive to give you the best stories, and trust me, this one is unlike anything you've experienced before. Don't click off. You're about to witness a love story so dark, so intense, so impossibly perfect that you'll be hooked from the first word to the last. This is the story of the girl who was bought by monsters and taught them how to love. This is my story, and it starts with a signature in black ink and ends with a crown. Let's begin. The pen felt heavier than it should. Black ink on white paper, my father's debt written out in numbers that made my stomach turn. 3 million won. 3 million. Bloody hell. Sign here, Miss Rashid. The lawyer pushed the document closer, his manicured finger tapping a line at the bottom. And here. And here. I looked at my father across the table. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Couldn't. The shame had already carved itself into the lines around his mouth, the way his shoulders hunched forward like he was trying to disappear into his cheap suit. He'd gambled away everything we had and then kept going, borrowing from people who didn't give second chances. What exactly am I signing? My voice came out steadier than I felt. The lawyer smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. A marriage. Contract. Legally binding under Korean law. In exchange for your hand in marriage, the Kang family will absorb all debts owed by your father and provide him with a monthly stipend for the remainder of his life. Marriage. The word tasted like metal. I was 23 years old, had just finished my degree, had plans that didn't involve being sold like property to pay off a gambling debt. To who? I demanded. Who am I marrying? Them. A new voice cut through the room, deep and commanding. I turned. 2 men stood in the doorway, and everything in me went still. They were identical, not similar, identical. The same sharp jawline, the same dark eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, the same perfectly tailored black suits that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. The same height, the same build, the same way they held themselves like they owned not just the room but everything in it. But there was something different in how they moved. The one on the left had an edge to him, something violent barely contained beneath expensive fabric. The one on the right was smoother, more controlled, but somehow that made him more terrifying. I'm Kang Jae-won. The violent one spoke first, moving into the room with predatory grace. This is my brother, Kang Tae-min. You can't be serious. I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. I'm supposed to marry both of you? Tae-min, the smooth one, tilted his head slightly. The contract is quite specific, Miss Rashid. You become wife to both of us. Legally married to the Kang family. That's not legal. That's not even possible. Many things are possible when you have the right resources. Jae-won stopped directly in front of me, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. And we have considerable resources. I could smell his cologne, expensive and subtle, mixed with something else. Danger, maybe. Power. The kind of scent that warned you to run even as it apes. pulled you closer. I won't do this. My hands were shaking. I clenched them into fists. You can't just buy a person. We're not buying you. Taemin's voice came from behind me now. When had he moved? We're settling a debt. There's a difference. No, there isn't. I spun to face him. This is human trafficking. This is your father's life. Jaewon's words cut through my protest like a blade. The men he owes, they don't negotiate. They don't give extensions. They take fingers first, then hands, then whatever else they feel is equivalent to the debt. Your father would be dead within a week. I looked at my father again. He was crying now, silent tears running down his weathered cheeks. For the first time, I noticed the bruises on his hands, poorly hidden by his sleeves. They'd already started. Why? The question came out barely above a whisper. Why me? Why marriage? The twins exchanged a look, some silent communication passing between them. Then Taemin spoke. 5 years ago, there was an attempt on our lives, a car bomb. We survived, obviously, but there were complications. He paused, his expression unreadable. The doctors told us we're infertile, both of us. Recently, Jaewon continued, we learned the doctors may have been wrong. There's a chance, a small one, that with the right woman, we could father an heir. Our family needs an heir. And you think I'm the right woman? I couldn't process this. You don't even know me. We know enough. Taemin pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, and handed it to me. We know your mother died when you were 12. We know you raised yourself while your father sank deeper into gambling addiction. We know you put yourself through university working 3 jobs. We know you're strong, resilient, and desperate enough to consider this. The phone screen showed my entire life laid out in bullet points. My grades, my work history, medical records showing I was healthy, fertile, even my social media, the few photos I'd posted of artwork and sunsets. This is insane. But I was still looking at the phone, still seeing my life summarized into data points that made me valuable to men who needed an heir. It's business. J1 took the phone back. And the deal is simple. You marry us. You live with us. You provide an heir. In exchange, your father lives and you want for nothing. And if I refuse? Silence, heavy and suffocating. Finally, Taemin spoke. Then we leave this room. Your father's debt remains, and nature takes its course. We'll find another woman. There are always desperate people willing to trade anything for security. I looked at the contract again, looked at my father, broken and weeping, looked at the twins who stood there like kings offering mercy to peasants. I had journalism awards. I had dreams of investigative reporting, of changing the world with truth. I had plans. I also had a father who would die screaming if I walked away. My hand found the pen again. I want to read the entire contract first. Every word. Of course. Taemin gestured to the lawyer. Take all the time you need. It took me 3 hours to read every clause, every stipulation, every carefully worded trap hidden in legal language. The contract was explicit in ways that made my skin burn. I would live with them, share their bed, submit to attempts at conception. I would be their wife in every sense of the word, bound to both of them equally. In exchange, I would have financial security, protection, and the knowledge that my father would live. There was even a clause about my education, stating they would support any further studies I wished to pursue. There's nothing here about love, I said finally, looking up at the twins who had waited patiently, neither showing any sign of impatience. Love is not contractual. Jaewon's smile was sharp. But respect can be negotiated. Treat us with respect, fulfill your obligations, and we'll dine. Ensure you're treated like a queen. And if I grow to hate you, then you'll hate us in comfort. Taemin moved closer, his voice dropping. We're not asking for your love, Aisha. We're asking for your compliance. The rest will develop or it won't. He'd used my first name. Somehow that felt more intimate than anything else that had happened. One more question. I met Jaewon's eyes, then Taemin's. Have you done this before? Bought women? Never. They answered in unison, their voices overlapping. You're the first, Taemin continued, and you'll be the last. We don't share well. The weight of that statement settled over me. I would be theirs, completely, exclusively. 2 men who apparently shared everything, including their wives. I signed the contract. Each signature felt like a small death, like I was killing the version of myself who had dreams that didn't include being owned. But I was also saving a life. My father's life. That had to mean something. Congratulations, Mrs. Kang. The lawyer gathered the papers with obvious relief. The marriage is legally binding as of this moment, Mrs. Kang. I wasn't Aisha Rashid anymore. I was someone's wife. Two someones. Your belongings have already been collected from your apartment. Jaewon was suddenly next to me, his hand on the small of my back. The touch burned through my thin blouse. Our car is waiting. What? Now? Panic flared. I didn't even get to say goodbye to, your father will be relocated to a secure apartment in Gangnam. Taemin was at my other side now, effectively boxing me in. He'll be well cared for. You can visit him supervised once you've settled in. Settled in where? Home. Jaewon's hand pressed slightly firmer against my back, propelling me toward the door. Our home. You're home now. The car was exactly what I expected. Black. Expensive. With windows so dark I couldn't see inside until Taemin opened the door. The interior smelled like leather. And wealth. I climbed in because I had no other choice. Jaewon slid in beside me. Taemin took the seat across from us. The door closed with a heavy, final sound. The driver pulled away from the curb, and I watched through the window as my father stood on the sidewalk, getting smaller and smaller until he disappeared. Where are we going? My voice sounded hollow in the confined space. Cheongdam-dong. Taemin was watching me with an intensity that made me want to squirm. The penthouse. Of course they had a penthouse. Men like this always had penthouses. We should establish some ground rules. Jaewon's arm stretched across the back of the seat behind me, not quite touching but close enough that I felt surrounded. You'll have your own room initially. We won't force ourselves on you, but you will share our space, eat meals with us, attend events as our wife. And the heir? I forced myself to ask, when does that begin? When you're ready. Taemin leaned forward, slightly. We're not monsters, Aisha. We don't force women. When you come to us, it will be your choice. I'll never be ready. The words escaped before I could stop them. Never is a long time. Jaewon's fingers brushed my shoulder, just barely. You might surprise yourself. The drive took 30 minutes. 30 minutes of silence broken only by the hum of the engine and my own racing heartbeat. I stared out the window, watching Seoul pass by in streaks of neon and darkness. This city was supposed to be my fresh start. My father had brought us here 5 years ago, chasing some fantasy of wealth and opportunity. Instead, he'd found casinos and loan sharks. And I'd found this, 2 men who bought me like property and expected me to be grateful for the privilege. The building was glass and steel, jutting into the Seoul skyline like a shard of ice. The doorman bowed as we entered. The elevator required a key card to access the top floor. Everything was sterile, perfect, expensive. Everything was a cage dressed up as luxury. The penthouse doors opened directly into the apartment. I stepped inside and my breath caught despite myself. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. The lights of Seoul spread out below like stars had fallen to earth. The furnishings were minimal but clearly expensive, all clean lines and neutral colors. Art hung on the walls, pieces that looked like they belonged in museums. Your room is this way. Taemin walked past me, expecting me to follow. I did. What choice did I have? The room he showed me was larger than my entire previous apartment. A king-sized bed dominated the space, covered in white linens that probably cost more than my tuition. A wall of windows showed the same impossible view. A door led to what I assumed was a bathroom. The closet is fully stocked. J1 appeared beside me. If anything doesn't fit or isn't to your taste, let us know. We'll have it replaced. You bought me clothes? I turned to Baun. Face them both, these identical strangers who now owned me, without even asking my size. We know your measurements. Taemin's expression didn't change. We know everything about you, remember? Right. The investigation, the background check, the reduction of my entire existence into data points. Dinner is in an hour. Jaewon moved toward the door. Dress appropriately. We have guests coming. What? Panic spiked. You're parading me out already? We're introducing our wife to necessary business associates. He paused in the doorway. This is your life now, Aisha. The sooner you accept it, the easier everything becomes. They left me alone. The door closed softly. I heard the electronic lock engage. I was locked in a beautiful room with an incredible view, wearing clothes I didn't choose, waiting to be displayed to strangers as proof of ownership. I walked to the window and pressed my palm against the cold glass. Somewhere in this city, my father was probably drinking to forget what he'd done. Somewhere out there were the dreams I'd had, the life I'd planned. All of it was gone now. I was Mrs. Kang, property of two men who needed an heir, a means to an end. I wouldn't cry. I refused to give them that. Instead, I opened the closet. They weren't lying about it being stocked. Designer clothes I recognized from magazines lined the racks. Shoes in perfect rows, jewelry in velvet boxes. Everything a woman could want, except freedom. I chose a dress almost at random. Black, because it felt like mourning. Simple, because I wasn't here to impress anyone. It fit perfectly because of course it did. They knew my measurements. They knew everything. The bathroom was marble and gold, stocked with expensive products. I washed my face, fixed my hair, put on the minimum makeup necessary to look alive. The woman staring back at me from the mirror looked like a stranger. She looked expensive, untouchable, nothing like the girl who'd walked into that office 3 hours ago. A knock on the door made me jump. "Come in," what else could I say? Taemin entered carrying a small box. "I wanted to give you this before dinner." He opened the box. Inside was a ring, not flashy, but clearly expensive. A single perfect diamond on a platinum band. "We both have one." He held up his hand, showing me an identical band on his ring finger. "So people know you're ours. I'm already wearing one." I lifted my hand, showing the gold band they'd slipped on my finger while I signed the contract. "A legal requirement," the lawyer had said. "That's the legal ring. This is the real one." He took my hand before I could pull away, slid the new ring onto my finger above the gold band. "There, perfect. It was too heavy, too expensive, too much. Dinner starts in 10 minutes. His hand lingered on mine, his thumb brushing across my knuckles. "Don't be late. It's disrespectful to our guests." He left. I stared at the ring, at the way it caught the light, at the weight of it pulling my hand down. This was real. This was happening. This was my life now. I walked out of my room. The penthouse seemed bigger now, more maze-like. I followed the sound of voices to a dining room that could seat 20. A table set with crystal and china, candles flickering, and 6 men in expensive suits standing around talking business in rapid Korean. They all turned when I entered. The conversation died. 6 pairs of eyes assessed me, categorized me, dismissed me as relevant, except for Jae-won and Taemin. They looked at me like I was something precious, something that belonged to them. "Gentlemen." Jae-won's voice cut through the silence. "My wife, Aisha." The words felt like a brand. Wife, singular, even though there were 2 of them. As if I belonged to an entity called Kang rather than 2 separate men. Charming. One of the men, older with silver at his temples, smiled at me. "Where did you find such an exotic flower?" Exotic. I hated that word. I smiled anyway because what choice did I have? "Aisha is Tanzanian." Taemin moved to my side, his hand settling possessively on my waist. "We met through mutual business interests. Lie, complete lie." But I wasn't about to correct him in front of strangers. Dinner was torture. 7 courses of food I barely tasted while men talked around me in a language I was still learning. Occasionally, someone would throw a question my way, patronizing inquiries about my education or my thoughts on Seoul. I answered with the minimum necessary, keeping my voice pleasant, my expression neutral, all while Jae-won's hand rested on my thigh under the table, not moving, just there. A constant reminder of ownership, of what they expected from me eventually. Taemin was across from me, and every time I looked up, he was watching me with those dark, unreadable eyes, like he was studying me, learning my tells, figuring out exactly how to break me down. When dinner finally ended, when the guests finally left, I thought I might get to retreat to my room. I was wrong. Living room. Jae-won's hand on my elbow guided me to a different space. "We need to talk." The living room was all sharp angles and uncomfortable-looking furniture that was probably priceless. Taemin was already there, pouring 3 glasses of whiskey. "Sit." Jae-won gestured to the couch. I sat. They flanked me, 1 on each side, close enough that I could feel their body heat, smell their cologne, sense the leashed power in them both. "You did well tonight." Taemin handed me a glass. "Better than we expected, honestly. What did you expect? That I'd make a scene? Embarrass you?" "We expected you to be overwhelmed." Jaewon's arm stretched across the back of the couch again, his fingers brushing my shoulder. This is a lot to process. We understand that. Do you? I turned to face him. Do you understand what it's like to be sold? To be property? To know that everything you dreamed of is gone? Because your father couldn't control himself? No. His honesty surprised me. We don't. We've never been powerless. We were born into this world, raised to rule it. The idea of being owned is foreign to us. Then you can't possibly understand. But we can empathize. Taemin set his glass down. Aisha, we're not trying to break you. We need you intact, strong, capable of bearing children who will inherit everything we've built. A broken woman can't do that. So you're preserving your investment. We're respecting our wife. Jaewon's correction was soft but firm. There's a difference. I drank the whiskey. It burned going down, but the burn felt good, felt real. I want to establish some rules of my own. The alcohol made me bolder. If I'm going to be here, if I'm going to do this, then I want certain things. Such as? Taemin was studying me again. I want to continue my education. You said in the contract you'd support it. I want to pursue my master's degree in journalism. Done. Jaewon didn't even hesitate. What else? I want to see my father regularly. Not supervised. Alone. No. Taemin's voice was gentle but absolute. Supervised visits once a month. Your father is a gambling addict with poor impulse control. We need to monitor his behavior. He's my father, and he's a liability. Jaewon's fingers tightened slightly on my shoulder. We're protecting you as much as him. Those men he borrowed from, they're angry the debt was absorbed by us instead of being paid in blood. If your father has unsupervised contact with you, he becomes a vulnerability. I hadn't thought of that. Hadn't considered that by saving him, I might have also painted a target on both our backs. Fine, supervised, but monthly and for at least 2 hours. Agreed. Taemin nodded. What else? I want time. Before the heir, part of this arrangement begins. I want time to adjust, to accept this, to be ready. They exchanged one of their silent looks, some conversation happening without words. 30 days, Jaewon finally said. We'll give you 30 days to adjust. We'll court you properly, help you see that we're not monsters, that this arrangement can be good for all of us. At the end of 30 days, we expect you to fulfill your obligations. And if I can't, my voice dropped to a whisper, if I can never be ready, then we renegotiate. Taemin reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. The gesture was so gentle it startled me. But we think you'll surprise yourself, Aisha. We think you're stronger and more adaptable than you realize. I hate you both. The words came out before I could stop them. I hate that you bought me. I hate that you think money solves everything. I hate that I had to choose between my father's life and my freedom. We know. Jaewon's voice was soft. Hate us if you need to, but give us 30 days to change your mind. They left me alone after that. I went back to my room, to my beautiful cage, and I stared at the city lights until they blurred. Exhaustion pulled at me, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw my father's face. The shame, the relief, the knowledge that he'd sold his daughter to save his own skin. I hated him for that, almost as much as I hated the twins. Almost. Sleep came eventually, fitful and full of dreams where I was running but my feet wouldn't move, where hands reached for me and I couldn't scream, where a pen signed contracts in blood instead of ink. Morning came too soon, sunlight streaming through windows I'd forgotten to cover. For a moment, I didn't remember where I was. Then reality crashed back. I was married, to 2 men I'd met yesterday, men who expected me to bear their children. A knock on the door. Breakfast is ready. Taemin's voice. Smooth and controlled, just like everything about him. I dragged myself out of bed, found clothes in the closet, jeans and a simple top because I wasn't dressing up for them. This was my small rebellion. The kitchen was spotless and modern, all stainless steel and granite. Jaewon stood at the stove, cooking. Actually cooking, not having staff do it for him. The smell of eggs and coffee filled the space. Good morning. He didn't turn around. How do you take your eggs? I can make my own breakfast. That wasn't the question. He plated food, turned to face me. How do you take your eggs, Aisha? Scrambled. I sighed, too tired to fight. With cheese if you have it. We have everything. Taemin appeared with a cup of coffee, placed it in front of me at the kitchen island. Cream, no sugar, right? They'd researched even that, even how I took my coffee. Breakfast was surprisingly normal. The twins talked about their schedule for the day, various business meetings, a charity gala they needed to attend next week. They included me in the conversation, asking my opinion on things that didn't matter. It felt like playing house, like we were a normal married couple instead of a transaction. "What are you doing today?" J1 asked as he cleared plates. "I don't know. What am I allowed to do?" The bitterness crept back into my voice. "Whatever you want." Taemin pulled out his phone. "The car and driver are at your disposal. Credit cards are in your room. Unlimited spending. Want to shop? Get your nails done? Visit museums? It's all available to you. I want to look for graduate programs." "Perfect." He seemed genuinely pleased. "My office has contacts at every major university in Seoul. I'll make some calls, set up meetings if you'd like." I didn't want his help, didn't want to owe them anything more than I already did, but I also wasn't stupid enough to turn down connections that could help me achieve something I wanted. That would be helpful. "Thank you." The words felt strange in my mouth. Thanking my captors for allowing me to pursue dreams they'd nearly destroyed. The days started to blur together. Wake up, breakfast with the twins. They'd leave for work. I'd spend the day in the penthouse, reading, researching schools, slowly going insane from the isolation. Dinner with the twins, increasingly long conversations that felt almost normal. Then retreat to my room, alone, trying to remember who I was before I became Mrs. Kang. Day 5, Taemin came home early, found me on the couch reading a journalism textbook I'd had delivered. "How's the research going?" He sat down next to me, close enough that our thighs touched. "Good. I have meetings set up with 3 different programs." "Excellent." He was quiet for a moment. "Aisha, can I ask you something? Can I stop you?" His smile was slight. "Fair. Do you always keep your walls this high, or is it just with us?" "What walls?" "The ones that keep you at a distance. The ones that make you treat every conversation like a negotiation." He shifted to face me fully. "We're not your enemies. You're my owners. We're your husbands." The correction was gentle. "There's a difference." Not to me. He studied me for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he reached out and took my hand. Not forcefully, just held it. "I'm going to tell you something true." His thumb traced circles on my palm. "J1 and I have spent our entire lives sharing everything. Our parents died when we were young. We were raised by our grandfather, groomed to take over his empire. We learned early that trust is rare, that people want what we have, that showing weakness is death. I don't see how that relates to, I'm getting there." He squeezed my hand slightly. "We've never let anyone close, never had relationships that mattered. We've used people, yes. We've slept with women who wanted our money or our status, but we've never had someone who was ours, someone we could be real with." "And you think that's me? Someone you bought?" "I think you're someone who has as much to lose as we do, who has reasons to make this work beyond just survival, who's smart enough to see that we're offering more than just security." His eyes held mine. "We're offering partnership, real partnership, if you're brave enough to take it." "Partnership implies equality. We're not equal." "Not yet." He released my hand, stood up. "But we have 30 days to balance the scales. Use them wisely, Aisha. Learn about us. Let us learn about you. At the end of it, make your choice with full knowledge instead of blind fear." He left me sitting there, hand still tingling from his touch, mind spinning with what he'd said. Partnership. As if that was possible between captive and captor. But the seed was planted. Day 7, J1 took me shopping. Not because I needed anything, but because, as he put it, I'd been locked in the penthouse like a prisoner, and that wasn't healthy. "I am a prisoner," I pointed out as we walked through a designer district I'd only ever read about. "Then consider this a field trip." He stopped in front of a boutique. "Pick anything you want. Everything you want. Money isn't a concern. I don't want your money. I know. That's what makes this interesting." He held the door open. "Humor me." The store was the kind of place I'd never have entered on my own. Everything was beautiful, expensive, completely out of reach for normal people. The staff recognized J1 immediately, descended on us with practiced smiles and offers of champagne. "Show her everything." J1 settled into a chair. "My wife needs a complete wardrobe upgrade." I tried on clothes because it seemed easier than arguing. Each outfit was more expensive than the last. Each one fit perfectly because they had tailors on staff who could alter anything in minutes. That one. J1's voice stopped me as I emerged in a deep red dress. That one is perfect. I looked at myself in the mirror. The dress hugged every curve, made my dark skin glow, transformed me into someone who belonged in their world. It's too much. It's perfect. He stood, walked over to me. Do you see what I see? An expensive dress. I see a queen. His hands settled on my shoulders, turning me to face the mirror. I see a woman who could rule the world if she wanted to. Who has the strength to take what's hers? Our eyes met in the reflection. His hands were warm on my shoulders, possessive but not aggressive. You're beautiful, Aisha, but more than that, you're formidable. You walked into our world with nothing, and you haven't broken. You negotiate, you think, you survive. His voice dropped lower. Do you know how rare that is? I'm surviving because I have to. No, you're surviving because you're strong enough to bend without breaking. There's a difference. He bought the dress, and 10 others, and shoes, and jewelry. I protested every purchase, but he ignored me, acted like my discomfort was amusing rather than real. On the drive back, shopping bags filling the trunk, he finally spoke seriously. I know you. Think we're monsters. I know you hate this situation. But Aisha, I want you to understand something. He turned to face me in the back seat. We didn't choose this arrangement lightly. We need an heir, yes, but we also needed someone who could survive our world. Someone smart enough to see the game and strong enough to play it. I don't want to play games. Then you'll lose. His bluntness startled me. Our world is dangerous. It's full of people who would use you against us, who would hurt you to hurt us. You need to be ready for that. You need to be strong enough to stand beside us, not hide behind us. Why do you care if I'm strong? Because weak things break. His hand moved to my face, cupping my cheek with surprising gentleness. And we don't want you broken. I should have pulled away, should have maintained distance, but his touch was warm, and I'd been so cold since this started, so isolated, so alone. I don't understand you, my voice came out whisper-soft. Either of you, you're cruel and kind in the same breath. You imprison me and then offer freedom. You buy me and then treat me like I'm precious. That's because you are precious. He leaned closer. You're the most valuable thing we own. Not because we bought you, but because you're irreplaceable. You could find another woman. Not like you. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. We researched dozens of candidates. You were the only one who had the right combination of strength, intelligence, and desperation. The only one we both agreed on. Lucky me, he smiled. Lucky us. His face was very close now. His eyes dropped to my lips. I knew what was coming, could see the intention in every line of his body. He was going to kiss me. I should have stopped him, should have turned away. I didn't. His lips touched mine, soft at first, testing. When I didn't pull away, the kiss deepened. His hand slid into my hair, angling my head for better access. His other hand pulled me closer, until I was practically in his lap. I'd been kissed before, college boyfriends, fumbling encounters that left me unimpressed. This was different. This was consuming, commanding, a kiss that demanded surrender and offered pleasure in return. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. That wasn't part of the 30 days. My protest was weak even to my own ears. That was me being unable to resist you for another second. He settled me back into my seat, straightened my clothes with careful hands. But it won't happen again until you're ready. I promise. The rest of the drive was silent, charged with an electricity that hadn't existed before. When we got back to the penthouse, Taemin was waiting. His eyes moved between us, seeing something in our expressions. Shopping went well, I see. Very well. Jaewon's smile was sharp. Our wife has excellent taste. Our wife looks like she's been thoroughly kissed. Taemin's observation was clinical, but his eyes held heat. Interesting. My face burned. It was a mistake. Was it? Taemin moved closer. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like progress. I don't. But he was already invading my space, his hand tilting my chin up. If my brother gets to kiss you, so do I. It's only fair. That's not how this works, isn't it? His smile was slow, dangerous. We share everything, Aisha, everything. Then his mouth was on mine, and oh, this kiss was different. Where Jaewon had been commanding, Taemin was seductive. Where Jaewon had taken, Taemin coaxed. His kiss was slower, deeper, more devastating in its thoroughness. When he finally released me, I was dizzy. Now we're even. He stepped back, expression satisfied. Dinner in an hour. Wear the red dress. They both left me standing there, lips swollen, body trembling, mind completely fractured. This was wrong. This was insane. I was attracted to my captors, to the men who'd bought me like property. But I was also alive in a way I hadn't been since this started. My skin was electric. My heart was racing. For the first time, I felt something other than fear and resentment. I felt desire, and that terrified me more than anything else. If you're enjoying this story and want to know what happens next, hit that subscribe button right now. This is going to get intense, and you don't want to miss a single moment of Aisha's dangerous journey. Drop a comment telling me if you think she should give in to the twins or keep fighting. And share this with anyone who loves dark romance and impossible choices. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of contradictions. The twins courted me like I was someone worth winning instead of someone they'd already won. They took me to expensive restaurants where we were treated like royalty. They showed me Seoul's hidden treasures, galleries and temples and rooftop gardens I'd never have found on my own. They were attentive, charming, surprisingly funny once I learned to read their dry humor. They asked about my dreams, my goals, my opinions on everything from politics to art. They treated me like my thoughts mattered. And slowly, against every instinct, I started to soften. It wasn't just the luxury, though that helped. It wasn't just the physical attraction, though that was undeniable. It was the way Jaewon remembered I didn't like cilantro and made sure restaurants knew to leave it off my food. It was the way Taemin bought me books he thought I'd enjoy, always with a handwritten note explaining why. It was the way they both looked at me like I was something precious. On day 18, everything changed. I was leaving one of my graduate program meetings, feeling optimistic about getting accepted, when a car pulled up beside me. Not the usual driver, not the usual car. 3 men got out, moving fast. I tried to run, but they were faster. A hand over my mouth, arms pinning me, the smell of chloroform, then darkness. I woke up in a warehouse, hands zip-tied to a chair, head pounding. A man stood in front of me, middle-aged, expensive suit, cold eyes. "Mrs. Kang." His voice was smooth. "Welcome. I've been looking forward to meeting you." "Who are you?" "Lee Dae-hyun. Your husbands and I have some unfinished business. You're going to help me resolve it." Fear clawed at my throat. "They'll come for me." "Oh, I'm counting on it." He smiled. "That's the point." He left me there, tied up, terrified, alone. Hours passed, maybe days. It was hard to tell in the windowless space. Occasionally someone brought water, let me use a bucket for a bathroom. No one hurt me, but the threat of violence hung heavy. Then I heard it. Gunfire, shouting, the sound of men dying. The warehouse door exploded inward. Jae-won came through first, gun raised, moving like death incarnate. Taemin was right behind him, equally armed, equally lethal. They killed everyone in their path. No hesitation, no mercy, just brutal, efficient violence. When Jaewon reached me, when he cut the zip ties and pulled me into his arms, I felt something shift inside me. This was what I'd seen in their eyes all along, the capacity for absolute violence, the willingness to destroy anyone who threatened what was theirs. And I was theirs. These men had killed for me. "Are you hurt?" Jaewon's hands were everywhere, checking for injuries, his voice rough with emotion. "No, just scared. Don't be scared." Taemin was suddenly there, his gun still smoking, his eyes wild. "We have you now. You're safe." They carried me out of that warehouse, past the bodies of men who'd thought they could use me. They put me in their car, wrapped me in a blanket, held me between them all the way home. In the penthouse, they hovered, refusing to let me out of their sight. Jaewon ran me a bath while Taemin made food I couldn't eat. They watched me like I might disappear if they looked away. "How did you find me?" I finally asked. "We had you." Taemin. Taemin showed me his phone, a little dot that represented me. "We always know where you are." I should have been angry about the invasion of privacy. Instead, I felt safe. The man who took me, Lee Dae-hyun, he said you had unfinished business. "We do." Jaewon's voice was ice. He tried to muscle in on our territory last year. We refused his offer. He's been looking for revenge ever since. And I gave him the perfect opportunity. "No, Taemin's hand found mine. This isn't your fault. This is war, and you were collateral damage. But he made a mistake. He touched what's ours. What happens now? They exchanged one of their looks. Then Jaewon spoke. Now we finish it. We end him and everyone loyal to him. We make sure no one ever threatens you again. That's murder. That's protection. He moved closer, crouched in front of me. Aisha, our world is violent. We've tried to shield you from that, but you need to understand. This is who we are. This is what we do. We protect what's ours with absolute force. And I'm yours. Completely. Taemin's hand tightened on mine. Does that scare you? I thought about it. Really thought. About the violence I'd witnessed. About the men they'd killed without hesitation. About the darkness that lived in them both. No, I said finally. It doesn't scare me. It should, but it doesn't. Why not? Jaewon's eyes searched mine. Because I've spent my whole life being powerless. My father made choices that destroyed my future. Men like Lee Dae-hyun think they can take whatever they want. But you two? You take that power back. You don't let anyone make you a victim. And you want that. Taemin's observation was soft. You want to be strong like us. Yes, the admission felt like freedom. I want to learn. I want to know how to fight, how to protect myself, how to survive in your world. Our world, Jaewon corrected. It's your world now too. Then teach me. I looked between them. You said you didn't want me weak. Prove it. Teach me to be strong. They did. Starting the next day, they hired trainers, combat specialists who taught me how to punch, how to kick, how to use my smaller size as an advantage. Weapons experts who taught me to shoot, to handle knives, to turn anything into a weapon. It was brutal. Every morning I woke up sore, covered in bruises that were marks of progress. But I loved it. Loved feeling my body grow stronger, my reflexes sharper, my confidence building. The twins trained with me sometimes, pushing me harder than any instructor. Jaewon was merciless, knocking me down and making me get back up until I could hold my own. Taemin was more strategic, teaching me to think 3 moves ahead, to read opponents, to exploit weakness. And through it all, we grew closer. The attraction that had started with those kisses deepened into something more dangerous, something that felt almost like love. On day 29, one day before our agreement ended, I found them both in the living room, waiting for me. Tomorrow is day 30. Taemin's voice was careful. We need to discuss what happens next. I sat down between them, suddenly nervous. I know. You have a choice to make. Jaewon's hand found mine. Keep fighting us, and we renegotiate, or surrender, and we move forward. What does surrender look like? My voice was barely above a whisper. It looks like you accepting us. All of us. It looks like you sharing our bed, trying for the air we need, becoming a true wife instead of a purchased one. Taemin's hand joined Jaewon's, both of them holding me. It looks like you trusting us to protect you, cherish you, give you a life worth living. It looks like partnership. I looked at them both. These men who'd bought me, who'd killed for me, who'd trained me to be strong, who looked at me like I was everything. I have conditions. My heart was racing. Name them. They spoke in unison. I want to finish my degree. I want to be involved in your business decisions. Not just a figurehead. I want respect. Real respect. From everyone in your organization. Done. Jaewon didn't hesitate. And I want to know that if I give you this, if I give you myself completely, you'll never take it for granted. That I'll always matter more than business, more than power, more than anything else. Aisha. Taemin turned me to face him. You already matter more than anything else. You've mattered since the moment you walked into that office and signed those papers with fire in your eyes. We don't do this lightly, Jaewon added. We don't share well. We don't let people close. But you've gotten under our skin, into our heads, into our hearts. So you'll have both of us tonight. Taemin's voice dropped to something heated. And every night after, if you're brave enough to say yes. I took a breath. Thought about the girl I'd been 4 weeks ago, terrified and desperate. Thought about the woman I'd become, strong and fierce. Thought about the life stretching ahead, dangerous but mine. Yes. The word came out strong, certain. Yes to all of it. I choose this. I choose you. Both of you. They didn't wait. Jaewon's mouth found mine while Taemin's lips traced my neck. 4 hands pulled me closer, worked at my clothes, mapped my skin with possessive touches. "You're ours now," J1 breathed against my lips. "Completely ours. And you're mine," I shot back, surprising myself. "Both of you, completely mine." Taemin laughed, the sound vibrating against my throat. "Yes, we are. Mind, body, and soul, we belong to you as much as you belong to us." They carried me to their bedroom. Not my room, but theirs. The room I'd never been allowed to enter. It was massive, dominated by a bed that could fit 5 people, with the same floor-to-ceiling windows showing souls spread out below. "Last chance to change your mind." J1 set me down gently. "After this, you're ours. No going back." "I don't want to go back." I reached for him, then for Taemin, pulling them both close. "I want to go forward, together." What happened next was intense, overwhelming, perfect. They worshipped me with their hands and mouths, learning every inch of my body, finding every place that made me gasp. They were careful, despite their obvious desire, making sure I was ready, that I wanted every touch. When they finally took me, it was together. Not at the same time, but one after the other, each different in their approach but equally devastating. J1 was demanding, commanding my pleasure like he commanded everything else. Taemin was thorough, patient, determined to unravel me completely. By the time they were finished, I was boneless, satisfied in ways I'd never imagined. I lay between them, their hands stroking my skin, their breathing matching mine. "No regrets?" Taemin asked softly. "None." I turned to kiss him, then J1. "I love you, both of you. I don't know when. It happened, but it did. I love you. We love you too." They spoke together, voices overlapping. Our wife, our queen, our everything. I fell asleep between them, safer than I'd ever felt, loved in ways I'd never expected. The next few months were a whirlwind. I started my master's program, attended business meetings with the twins, slowly became a real partner in their empire. I learned their world, learned to navigate the dangerous politics, learned when to smile and when to show teeth, and I discovered I was pregnant. The miracle the doctors said was impossible happened. The air they'd bought me for was growing inside me. When I told them, J1 cried, actually cried. Taemin just held me, his hands shaking against my still flat stomach. "How?" J1's voice was rough. "The doctors said, the doctors were wrong. I pulled them both down to me. Or maybe we're just that stubborn. Either way, we did it. We're going to have a baby." The pregnancy was surreal. They were impossibly protective, hovering constantly, treating me like I was made of glass. I had to fight to maintain any independence. I can walk to the bathroom by myself. I complained when J1 insisted on helping me. "You're carrying precious cargo. I'm 3 months pregnant, not an invalid." But I loved it, loved their devotion. Loved seeing these dangerous men reduced to nervous wrecks by the thought of becoming fathers. The birth was hard. 18 hours of labor that left me exhausted and screaming. But when they finally placed my daughter in my arms, when I looked at her perfect face and tiny fingers, everything else fell away. Hope. I looked at the twins, both of them staring at their daughter with expressions of absolute awe. "Her name is Hope." "Perfect." Taemin touched her tiny hand with one finger. "She's perfect. Just like her mother," J1 added, leaning down to kiss my forehead. "Thank you, Aisha. Thank you for giving us everything." 3 months. Later, I stood in front of the assembled families, 5 major organizations that the twins had carefully consolidated into one massive empire. I wore a dress that cost more than most people's cars. I held my daughter against my hip, and I spoke with the authority of someone who'd earned her place. "I'm Aisha Kang." My voice carried through the room. Co-head of the Kang Empire, mother to the heir. And I want to be very clear about something. I looked at the men watching me, seeing their doubt, their assumption that I was just a pretty face. I'm not here as decoration. I'm not here because I married well. I'm here because I've proven myself, because I've bled for this family, because I've learned this world and made it mine. J1 stepped up beside me, his hand on my waist. "Anyone who disrespects my wife disrespects me." Taemin took my other side. "And anyone who disrespects our family will answer to all 3 of us." The room was silent. Then, slowly, heads began to nod, acceptance spreading through the crowd. I'd done it. I'd gone from purchased wife to actual queen. I'd taken the hand I was dealt and played it perfectly. That night, lying in bed with my husband's, with Hope asleep in her crib nearby, I thought about the journey, about the girl who'd signed those papers in desperation, about the woman I'd become. I wouldn't change anything, I said softly. Not a single moment, not even the hard parts, not even being bought. J1's fingers traced patterns on my skin. Especially not that. I turned to look at them both, because it led me here, to you, to us, to Hope, to a life I never could have imagined. You saved us, Taemin said quietly. We thought we were buying a womb to carry our heir. Instead, we found the woman who made us human again. 3 points make a triangle, I murmured, echoing something Taemin had told me once. And triangles are the strongest shape. The strongest shape, J1 agreed. Us, forever. I fell, asleep, smiling, held between 2 men who loved me absolutely, our daughter breathing softly nearby, our future stretching out bright and dangerous and perfect. This was my life. Not the life I'd planned, but the one I'd chosen, the one I'd fought for, the one I ruled with 2 kings by my side, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. If you loved Aisha's journey from captive to queen, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible Afro-Korean romance stories. Share this with anyone who believes in the power of choosing your own destiny, even in impossible circumstances. Drop a comment telling me your favorite moment from this story. And remember, sometimes the darkest paths lead to the most beautiful destinations. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.